So today we're going to talk about some additional properties of exponents. Go ahead, take a moment, go ahead and set up your paper, Exponential Functions, Unit 4A, Homework 3, and the appropriate date in the upper right-hand corner. Your title across the top of the page, Additional Properties of Exponents, and then your questions down the side. Any questions or comments that you have during this. Go ahead and pause and do so now. So one of the properties I'd like to talk about is a power of a power property. And this is what you get when you have a base with an exponent inside parentheses and you're raising it to another power outside. And so what I'm saying is I'm saying 2 squared and I'm raising it to the 4th power. So 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared. And I can break that down even further by multiplying out my 2's to get rid of my exponent. So one of the ways I can look at this is I can say 2 squared to the 4th power, and I can multiply 2 times 4. And this gives me 2 to the 8th power. And that's proven when I break it down even further, I end up with 8 2's being multiplied. Let's look at our next one. I have 5 to the 5th power raised to the 3rd power. And that's the same thing as saying 5 to the 5th power times 5 to the 5th power times 5 to the 5th power. I can even break those 5's out even further. And that gives me a total of 15 5's I would be multiplying. So once again, to simplify this, I can say 5 times 3, and that gives me 15. Once again, 15 5's here. I can take 5 and multiply it by the 3 to give me 5 to the 15th power. So x to the 3rd power raised to the 4th power is x to the 3rd power times itself 4 times. Break it out and I get 12 x's. So I know that I can do x to the 3 times 4 power, and that will give me x to the 12th. And that's the basis for the power of a power property. So let's look at an example. Once again, I know that if I have an exponent raised to another power, I can go ahead and multiply that n into the other exponent, giving me a to the m times n. So here I have 3 to the 6th power raised to the 2nd power. I just multiply the 2 times the exponent inside the parentheses, and it'll give me 3 to the 12th power. You want to go ahead and take a moment, pause, copy before continue on to the next property. So our next property is power of a product property. And here is where I'm going to take 2x raised to the 4th power. And that's going to give me 2x times 2x times 2x times 2x. Pull it apart, put my constants together and my variables together. And I get 2 to the 4th power times x to the 4th power. Or 2 to the 4th power x to the 4th power. And it looks like, by looking at this piece right here, that all I did was distribute that exponent into each piece. Since, technically, they don't have exponents, their exponent would be 1. So multiplying it in would give me x to the 4th power and 2 to the 4th power. Let's look at our next one. So here I'm going to take the 3, and negative 4a to the 3rd power gives me negative 4a times itself 3 times. Put my constants together and put my variables together. And that gives me negative 4 to the 3rd power times a to the 3rd power. Negative 4a to the 3rd times negative a to the 3rd is how that simplifies. Now, what happens if we already have exponents inside the parentheses? Well, once again, this is where we're going to use our power of a power product. So that's going to be x to the 3rd to the 4th power and y to 2nd to the 4th power. And so that simplifies out all the way. And I can do 3 times 4 to give me 12 x's, 2 times 4 to give me 8 y's, with a final answer of x to the 12th and y to the 8th. So let's look at an example. Once again, we're going based on this property that if I have an exponent outside the parentheses, it distributes into each of the terms, a to the n power, b to the n power. So here I have 3 to the third power times c, and all of its raised to the 2 power. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that in to each term, and I get 3 to the third power times 2, using the product property, and c squared, which simplifies to 3 to the 6th power times c squared. Take a moment, pause, copy, before continuing on to our final property. So our final property is power of a quotient property. Here we're going to start with 2 divided by x to the 4th power. And you're going to notice it just means 2 over x times 2 over x times 2 over x times 2 over x. And that's the same thing as saying 2 to the 4th power over x to the 4th power, which means all I did was distribute this exponent to both the numerator and the denominator. Same thing with negative 4 over a. You're going to distribute the 3 in. So I've got negative 4 times over a times negative 4 over a times negative 4 over a. And this simplifies to negative 4 to the 3rd power over a to the 3rd power. And once again, we have x to the 3rd power over y squared, and we're raising it to the 4th power. And that's the same thing, using our previous properties, distribute the 4 into both terms. And because this is a power of a product, we want to multiply the 3 times the 4 and the 2 times the 4. And that's going to give me a final answer of x to the 12th power over y to the 8th power. So let's try an example. Once again, remembering that the exponent will distribute to both the numerator and the denominator. We have x to the 3rd power over 6 squared, and we're raising all of that to the 4th power. We distribute in, and because we're using the product property, we want to take 3 times 4 and 2 times 4. Simplify, and I get x to the 12th over 6 to the 8th power. Go ahead and take a moment, pause, and copy before continuing on to the try it out. So here's our try it out. We have 4 questions for you to try out. Questions 1, 2, 3, you need to simplify and write without negative powers. This is where you're going to be applying all 7 of our properties that we've been practicing in class. Once again, try this out and then move on to the next slide for the answers. Bring any questions or comments with you to the next class. And then once again, if you have any problems getting these answers, please feel free to come to tutorials or make sure you ask questions during the first 15 minutes of class when we're going over our try it outs. Good luck. See you in class.